sharing that this is my sort of my cutting edge to put myself out and to somebody else. There's Claire. Hey, Claire, welcome. Shoes out there as a way of serving this community. So here I am, and my daughter's here with me, Mari, and she's been here for a while, and I'm considering her. She said, "Well, I'm your assistant," and I said, "No, you're my teammate," because and she will pipe in as I talk, I hope, because she has a lot to share, and you know, she's coming from her own awakened place. And she probably hates me for saying that, but that's a truth. And welcome, Claire. I'm so glad you came. No, it's late. So what else do I want to say? So I'm going to sit down. And it's lovely. It just feels like a reunion of heart. Sort of makes me want to cry a little. I was thinking about you all. I didn't know who would come, you know, and these kinds of things. It can be anywhere from 3 people to this group. But part of what I was thinking was that I want to cry again. I just want to acknowledge you all, that I realize that you all have been devoted to following a path of the heart, and that this path isn't starting here. It's been part of your lives for a long time, that everybody here has been working to create lives that are beautiful, you know, that are coming out of your love for yourself, for your partners, for as models for a community. And so you know a lot already, and you'll know a lot of what I have to say. What I hope to do is to lead you into several experiences, because if there's something I think that I do well, take that actually out of there, it's create an experience that is laced with transmission. So transmission is not going to be a problem here with this group, because part of what my intention is that we very consciously create a vessel, a container of connection amongst ourselves. Because when we're sitting in our heart, in presence from our heart, and we're in a place of connection in that sort of sacred circle, there is a collective field that's generated, and it makes any experience that you're having exponentially stronger. It increases the impact of it. And if I could have, I would have had a huge circle, but so I have semicircles here now. So that's one of my agendas today, and I will get to that agenda more directly after I lead us on one of our experiences. So what part of my intention is to take us into a meditation, and that's relational, because the heart is relational. It's all about connection. So I will take us on a journey that takes us into a relationship with place and body and breath, and finally our deepest sacred self. And then we'll introduce ourselves. That introduction will be the formulation of that collective field. So as we introduce ourselves, I will ask you to imagine that there are golden threads at your basket weavers, and that as each person puts the energy of their name into the circle, we're weaving that container. And then I'll talk a little bit, and after that, I'll lead you on another experience, because I realized that this is how it all sort of started. The darndest thing was, I found myself, life lives us. And I found myself calling up Justina, who I want to thank, who's back there, who I've worked with for so many years in one form of yoga studio or another, and who has deeply traveled and very generously traveled the path of the heart. Both as a yoga teacher and as a healer and as a writer, and so much gratitude to Justina. But what was on my mind was, it was like New Year's resolution time, and I found myself in all this resistance to the whole process of resolutions. And I finally realized, well, part of it was because I felt like so many times when we make these intentions that for our year, that they're coming out of the mind, and they're subtly based in fear or discontentment with who we are and where we are. And it's my belief that when that happens, there's a failure of intelligence. And frequently those resolutions just fall away pretty quickly. So I wanted to experiment with the third prong here, or fourth prong. I wanted to experiment with setting intentions from the heart and doing that very consciously. So that's the plan for today. So let's start here now. We're going to do an attunement here. So get yourself comfortable. Make yourself comfortable. And the first thing, even before you close your eyes, we want to come in relationship with this place. It's the place that our body is placed in right now. So it's very important sometimes, especially when we're feeling hectic, to pay attention to where you are. Just the visual sense of where you are and the sounds of where you are. And thank you. The proximity of your neighbors, the subtle lighting here. And from that sense of place, I'd like you to come into relationship with your body. So now would be a time to just, let yourself sit in a comfortable, but with your spine erect. And if you can, if it's comfortable, with your feet on the ground. Only if it's comfortable, because physically sometimes that isn't comfortable for people. So let's now just let our eyes gently fall closed, or if that's uncomfortable, just sort of look down your nose towards the ground with semi-closed eyes, whatever works for your psychology. And just become aware of your body as it is, without any need to change it, modify it. It's just so important to be present to ourselves, just as we are. And let's come into relationship with gravity. Just feeling that pull of gravity and feeling your weight on the ground, on your chair, your feet on the ground. It's a way of further inhabiting your place, your body, and using the power of your imagination. Take your attention to the very base of your spine, your sacrum, and imagine yourself sending a grounding cord or root down through this floor, down, down, and wrapping around our Mother Earth, the very core of the Earth Mother. And this grounding can be done anywhere, anytime, and it's such an incredible resource that's available to us to come back to center. And now, we'll come into relationship with our breath, just as it is, just noticing it as it is right now in this moment with no effort to change it. This is sort of a conscious, humble kind of attention. It's an act of love. And come into relationship with the interior of your body at the level of sensation. You might notice any areas of tension in your body, any areas of contraction. And imagine your breath as liquid love. Because this breath that we breathe right now has been breathed by by Jesus, by Buddha, by Muhammad, by Kuan Yin, by all great spiritual teachers. It's been breathed by every living thing upon this planet, and even the planet herself, the trees. So it connects us through our respiration with a great love. So as you breathe in, imagining that love being that liquid love, and noticing any area of discomfort or contraction, and allowing that breath to just gently hold it. Just sort of to gently caress that area. We never try to force or change areas of tension or contraction. We just want to be present to them. And when you exhale, imagine that you're also sending that exhalation to those areas. So here we begin to really inhabit our bodies. And allow your breath now to deepen even more as we come into deeper relationship with the breath. And allow your breath to go all the way down to your tummy. Gently feel the tummy and just notice that movement of your belly when you breathe deeply in and out. We so frequently breathe up in our shoulders, and that sort of sends this message of anxiety. What the belly is like the baby's breath. When there's no trauma in the body whatsoever, or very little, and the belly naturally goes out and comes in. And pay attention to the movement of the diaphragm. As the breath comes in, the diaphragm raises. As we exhale, it lowers. And this actually is sort of stimulates our vagus nerve, and our vagus nerve is connected to the parasympathetic nervous system. So it allows us to deepen our relaxation. And draw your attention up to the organs of respiration. If you would, consider that your body is a temple. And so when you breathe, it's a very sacred act. So be very careful attention to all the nuances of the breath coming in through your nose, across the top of your palate, down your trachea, and filling your lungs. And the exhalation, warmer, going out, noticing the path of the exhalation through the nose, and actually how far that exhalation extends, almost, if we imagine the breath going out, almost in front of your heart. So allow yourself, like walking a labyrinth, to very mindfully follow the breath. And you might put some attention to those points where the breath turns from the inhalation to the exhalation. There's a pause there, a repose. Just notice it. You don't have to extend it, but just notice that repose. On the inhalation, the breath goes in. Actually, they call these vata shantas, but it goes in all the way to the back of the heart. And on the exhalation, out again towards the front of the heart. And this vata shanta is like a portal. If you sense into it, you can sense into your own spaciousness. So as we breathe from these points that point out in front of our heart, up, in, through, and down into the back of our heart, there's sort of a hill, a curve to the breath, but instead, let's just use the power of our imagination to imagine that the front of our heart is translucent, permeable, and allow yourself to breathe in through the heart, to the back of the heart, and breathe out through the heart again. Very natural rhythm. These are the two movements of life, the movement out and the movement in. And this heart is, all religious traditions understand the sacredness of the heart. So many pieces of art that I've made have focused on the heart. So very gently allow yourself to feel into that heart center. This is sort of a spiritual heart that overlays, interpenetrates our physical heart. And you might notice a subtle sense of presence there. Perhaps a bit of radiance even, or a warmth, or a tingle. It's like we're making an offering of our devotion, of our humbleness, and of our sincere attention to this presence that abides within us. That is us. And allow yourself to just gently sink further into this deep, quiet place in the heart. And it's the home of the higher sacred self. So allow yourself to gently merge with that higher sacred self. That's it. Just notice the feeling of that merger happening. Because it's here that we come into collaboration with the divine. Feel into that spaciousness, the silence. There's a silence that's right here, right now, with us all in this room. And that silence is living presence. And so this place of presence, we're going to try to stay there as much as possible throughout this experience, this time that we have together. Because it's a place of receiving. So while your mind may want to get busy with this talk and this experience, it's, just sit back and let yourself receive. Let yourself listen from the state of your heart's presence. So gradually be aware of yourself on your chair again. Staying in this place. It's sort of deep. And when you gradually open your eyes, allow yourself to see through the eyes of your heart. Experience this room through the eyes of your heart. Experience the people who are here through the eyes of your heart. So if you haven't opened your eyes, go ahead. Notice the difference. Notice the difference in yourself and in this collective space. So while you're staying in this presence, we're going to create the vessel. And we'll do that by putting your name out. And if there's a word that comes from your experience rises up, or if there's a word or a simple sentence that is a truth that you're bringing with you, you can put that out there. You do not have to. But it helps, it sort of helps to deepen this collective field. Okay, so what a beautiful basket. You know, what a beautiful container we are. And again, call your attention to that sitting in presence. This is sort of the ongoing state. So, you know, when we sit in presence, the heart has a tremendous resonance field. So the more that we abide in this place, and that's really a primary teaching I had to offer today about living from the heart, is living from this sense of our own spacious presence. And that creates this resonance field, and it gives us a transmission. So when we're sitting here more and more, the more we're able to live from this place, the greater the impact that we'll have just by living our lives and walking out there in this world. Because I think that we all know that this movement out into the physical world has gone to its extreme, that there's a great disbalance that's happening in the world right now. And I know we all feel that pressure. It's like a collective busyness, a collective demand, or a collective anxiety or concern, all of those things. But it gets amplified because of the impact of the mind. And I'm speaking of the ancient mind. The mind itself is a wonderful tool, and what would we do without it, especially at income tax time? And you know, but the ancient mind is a survival. It's based on survival. It's formulated around fear. It creates suffering. It creates the conditioning that we've all been conditioned with to separate from our true self, to judge and compare, to circle up the wagons in a defensive structure out of our fear and our anxiety. The mind is a really tricky thing. It likes to captivate us with ruminating thoughts and stories. And the stories are frequently originate in some trauma or hurt or something concern from the past that doesn't any longer exist. And then the stories flip to the future, which is usually some concern about the future, some fear about the future, some effort to control life. And all of those things sort of take us out of our heart and out of the moment, which is the only moment, which is all we really have. And the mind wants us to think that it's a good thing to avoid suffering. And so what it does is that when we're experiencing a pain or some trauma, something that's come up in our life, we've been trained to turn away from it. And rather than to, like we did with those areas of contraction and discomfort, to gently hold it, to be present to it without having to change it, without having to intrude or force it to be anything other than where it is, to say, I love you here. You know, just as you are, right where you are. But the mind does not like to do that. It likes to take us away from ourselves because the poor thing just wants to, this is the egoic mind I'm speaking of, the poor thing just wants to survive. And the more that we abide here in the heart, what begins to happen is that the mind quiets. More and more it quiets, and it starts to release the ruminations. It starts to sit in a greater silence, and the stories start to drop away, and we begin to meet ourselves right here, right now, as we are, where we are, who we are, and there's less judgment of that, less saying that it's not good enough or you're not good enough. Instead, we begin to realize that we're right where we should be. We're right in the perfect place. How could we be anywhere else? Because look at all the factors that even brought you here. It's so many factors in life. It's a miracle. It's also interconnected. And our heart knows this because the heart is relational. Back to that again. So when we're in our mind and making our decisions out of fear, there's always a failure of intelligence. And we're living in a world whose systems have been based out of that conditioning and out of that survival fear of the ancient mind. And so they're formulated through a failure of intelligence, and we're watching them. They've become so complicated, they're starting to not work so well, and that's part of why we're frightened. Because this is a change, it's an age of change. And so they're starting to let go, and a new world will be generated. We may never live long enough to see that new world, but the new world that will generate will be from the heart. That this is, the energy that's out there, that's flooding down into our consciousness now. People are waking up to who they are rapidly, much more quickly. They're realizing this doesn't work, so we've got to find a new way. We've got to find a new form, and that is through that living in the heart. So since it's skewed over out into that world out there, we need to put more attention, sort of develop our sadhanas, our practice, to calling even right now again yourself into presence. You start to feel presence becomes anchored in you. It becomes quicker. Just the thought of it starts. Can you feel it? There's a silence that starts to come. Just the thought, just me saying it, we start to go down into that. And so there's a story that was told in India, in one of my many journeys to India, because that journey out there into the world, it can get into its shadow zone, and the journey interior into yourself can become sort of shadow zone, because you can sort of think about living in a cave, isolating yourself, or having a guru that gives you Shaktipat and takes you into an enlightened state, and then everything's good and fine, but you're not living an embodied life. We're physical girls and guys, and we're living on a physical plane. And so, ultimately, if we're going to make a difference, and we are making a difference, it's by having both of those movements, that movement in and the movement out, and they come together in a balanced place. And when they come together in a balanced place, there's actually a quiver. In Tantra, they talk about that. In fact, the spirit animal that's associated with the heart is the deer. And, I love that. We have little herds of deer going through our backyard when we're in the hot tub. But You probably all have had a close encounter with a deer, and there's something about liquid love that's in their eyes. They have a presence. We associate them with nurturance, but they're also sort of alert. They're sort of a quiver. They're protective of the heart. So we have to realize that our hearts have been injured and that we've circled our wagons, and that we have to meet our own defenses and gently hold them and gently reassure our heart. And when we come to that place of equipoise, it's almost like at that point, the one that underlies everything and underlies who we are can rise up. And it rises up, they say, as Ananda. We are Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, and bliss. And bliss can be sort of a strong word for that point of balance that happens. It could be love, it could be gratitude. It's just that those characteristics that we all named here are qualities of the one. And when they rise up, there's a certain pleasure there with that. And I sort of got a little off track here, but back to the story from India. So there's a story about this whole process of abiding in the heart. But the story was about these dyers in India, and some of you may have seen images on Facebook, but they have these indigo dye vats, and they have this fabric, and they dip the fabric in the dye, and then they hang it up on a line, and the sun dries it, and as it dries it, it fades, and it fades to just a little bit of that indigo color. So they have to dip that fabric back again into the dye and hang it up again into the light of sun, which is conscious awareness. And it fades a little less, and more of that indigo color, and you can just project on the line. You have to keep doing this until finally the fabric can maintain that indigo color. Well, we have to keep calling our attention to that place of presence, to abiding in the heart, over and over until we get established there. And there are many ways to make that inner journey, and you all know some of them. The sages talk about sitting in the silence, meditation. We know that. That's I spend several hours a day in that. Mindfulness. So what are some of the other ways that you have of turning in out there that you use? Nature. Mm-hmm. And that, what's that like? Put you in perspective and put you into relationship. So just for myself, I spent years chronically depressed at different times on medication. But then I started, I'm a devotee. I'm in love with the one. And I started down that path. And what I noticed happening gradually was that depression faded and continued to fade, to the point now that I'm always shocked if there's a thought that I used to have sort of obsessively that was sort of a signal of feeling sad. I'm like shocked, and I'll think, wow, look at that. But there's no resistance to it. The resistance has just dropped because I'm no longer afraid of it, and I'm no longer living in it. And the other thing that I notice is that now I'm sitting in a place of sort of hard to describe. It's almost like a place inside of myself of, just very peaceful. Just not much in the way of fear, um, of sort of an internal feeling of spaciousness. And that is luscious because I feel free. Like, that the mind and all of its ruminating, stories, most of that's quieted down, just isn't there. And it comes once in a while, but I just sort of, sort of, oh, sweetheart, honey, calm it down. Yeah, so that's abiding. That's where whatever that state is of living in presence starts to just be anchored in the system. And yeah, so anyway, enough on me on that. So wow, okay, you're all so beautiful. I just love looking at your faces. They're very beautiful. So well, I want to. Again, I said, I started to say, maybe I didn't even finish the thought. I called Justina on automatic and said, I want to do a talk and a meditation. And then after I'm off the phone, I'm going, what the fuck? What did I do? And I thought, I don't have anything to say. There's nothing, what do I, that the mind just sort of leapt in there for a bit. What do I have to offer? But the reason I called Justina was because I was in resistance to that whole thing around how we set intentions and New Year's resolutions. And we're in a time right now of renewal. It's the time of going to the ground. It's where people hibernate. But going to the ground, in our case, is going into our heart. So I'd like to take us through a process of moving into our heart and allowing the heart to inform us about what quality it holds that would most support our lives in the upcoming year. And that quality would be a quality of the one. And it would be simple. It would be very simple. And if we lived our life through the filter of that quality, I'll try to take us into that experience of what would that look like? What would that really look like? Like, I took myself through this, hence the idea. And the quality that came up for me was engagement. I have a lot of resistance to engagement, but here I am. And I started to think about, wow, what would my life look like if I were fully engaged with life? From the point of brushing your teeth in the morning, of welcoming the day when you wake up, of feeling gratitude for a healthy body, for to be engaged with my cup of coffee in the morning, or you can go on and on. You can see how, what if I allowed myself to be completely engaged with my partner rather than going into some defensiveness or resistance. If I was just really present with him or my family or the world out here, and you begin to see how this is transformative, and that simple resolution is a resolution. So that simple choosing a quality of the one as your sadhana, your spiritual practice, will have great results. And all of those solutions that we generate out of fear and in the mind, and when we're operating out of that quality, we'll get they'll happen. You know, as we sit in peace, and there's less anxiety, and there's less maybe reaching for the potato chips or whatever, and we start to notice that weight naturally comes off, that it happens without us um, having to force, because that kind of striving is coming from the mind, the egoic mind. So one last thing, one last experience here. So let's just get comfortable again. I'll try not to put you asleep here. And we'll quickly go through that engagement that we went through before. So allow yourself to feel yourself, feel the influence of gravity here in the chair. Again, just with the power of your mind, send that grounding cord. And then be present with yourself just as you are. And allow yourself to move into the interior of your body at the level of sensation. And this time, as we begin to put our attention to that liquid love of the breath, we'll send that liquid love to our hearts, because our hearts hold those traumas, and they 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 hold a tightness, a contraction that comes out of loss or hurt or disappointment, many things. And so as you breathe, just imagine that your breath goes in and caresses any sense of contraction that's there for you in your heart. And as you exhale, send that love that's in that exhalation also to your heart. Don't try to change your heart or force anything. Just like holding a baby. And in fact, you might allow yourself to self-soothe, to consider what your heart most wants to hear right now. And it may be sort of like an avatar. I see you. I see your experience, your life's experience. I'm noticing what you went through. Perhaps it's I'm here for you. I'm not going to abandon you. I'm present for you. Sweetheart. Sweetheart. I love you. And allow yourself to move into that heart, that sense of subtle sense of living presence. Or radiance. Or love. Or gratitude. And you're coming to this holy of holies. If our body is our temple, our heart is our holy of holies. And we're coming to it just with this humble and sincere and loving offering of our love and attention. here I am, I want to be with you. That's it. And feel that connection, allow yourself to once again merge with the presence in your heart, that living presence. That's it. And even at a deeper level, allow yourself to meld with the one. That's it. This is like coming into collaboration. This is an active relationship. It's a relationship with your heart. It's a relationship with the one, whatever that is for you. It's a relationship with your higher sacred self. And feel into, once again, that silence that's here with us. Sort of a spacious silence. Breathing in and out of your heart. And allowing that that resonance field of the heart, that transmission to just sort of go out fully into this room. And into this world. This is our collaborative gift. And the heart is our home. The heart, the word heart, is embedded in hearth, the fire at the center of our home. Our heart is our deepest truth and source. It's a source of all of our true security. It's a source of intelligence, not the failure of intelligence, but the true intelligence that comes from an uprising from within ourselves, from the inside out. That's it. Because at the very place of source, there's an ocean of potentiality. All the possibilities. And it is to there that we'll send down now a request. It is there that we will ask to have just a simple word or quality or a short sentence to rise up, to have that, to ask for that quality that will most serve our unfoldment, our abidance. It will most serve humanity. Just a word, maybe the first word. And if a word does not come up, perhaps that word is patience or trust. Because it will come up, it will emerge, and it will come to your conscious awareness in its own time. So perhaps we'd call that word living in the mystery. And as you have your word, imagine that that word becomes your sadhana, your practice, your approach, the filter through which you approach life. See how that quality would impact your life. How it would change your approach to how you live. How it would impact your relationships. Your work. Your health. Your emotional and psychological well-being. Allow that to play out and just notice how that impact is like a stone dropped into a pond that radiates out further and further. And now here we are again, sitting in that state of presence, in collaboration with the one, with the divine. And let us sort of gently come back to our bodies, but hold on to sitting in that presence once again. And gently open our eyes and see through the eyes of the heart once again. See the people here through the eyes of the heart. Everybody's back, but yet still here. Good, good. So I would like to teach you a process for anchoring in an intention through the use of a mudra. And a mudra is this is a Christian mudra. It's that coming together. But this mudra is a samkalpa mudra. It's a mudra, is a hand position that sort of holds a particular energy. And they call a mudra a seal. So the samkalpa mudra is when you take your left hand, you might do this with me. Yeah, and have it cross your heart, no accident there, and palm up, lay it on your right knee. Left hand on right knee. And then right hand coming down to make the seal. When we put our palms together, it's like joining our left and right brain. Powerful. So I'd like us to do a group intention setting, and that'll be sort of how we close out here. We're back to that collective field. Our intention set consciously in a collective field that holds this resonance of abiding in the heart is exponentially powerful. What I'm going to have us do is to say out loud that word, if it came to you. And if it, you don't have to either, you can pass. It's really, because you're saying it inside anyway. We're still putting it into the field. But just to say that word, and while holding this mudra. And I'd like us to own that word as fully as we can. So my word was engagement, to engage. And so I'm going to say, I fully engage with life. So all of that we've sent out into this resonant field is percolating, and it will continue to percolate. And it's our commitment to a sadhana of dropping into living presence, into that collaboration with the one that we are, and applying those qualities to our lives. Mm. Mm. I guess that I want to, oh my God, thank you so much. Thank you for your presence and your receptive listening, and for your love, and for being the beautiful people that you are out in the world, and for doing the work of collaborating and bringing in true intelligence and the heart into this life. So thank you.